Greetings to everyone on Arcturian philosophy. This will be a message to who I would not call foes or adversaries, but those who are misguided. Two of these people are Clare Wilkins and Johnathan Dickinson. Johnathan Dickinson is the president of GETA, which is the basically alliance of Ibogaine providers. I went to, so to describe basically some backstory to my viewers, I went to the Durban, South Africa conference in 2014 in May. I had a well-prepared presentation about some problems that we experience as providers, and meaning Ibogaine providers, and problems that we experience with chronic pain patients, which I have intimate experience with, which is something that these people have refused to believe. Now, one thing they will not believe is that I've been able to manage now without strong pain medication. Do I still occasionally need pain medication? Yes. But let's just say I know one person, a mutual friend of a mutual friend, who pulled me aside back in 2008 saying, "Krista, I can see how much intense pain you're in. I can see it, and I go through the same thing. I don't tell anyone what I take." He said that because he was scared. He was scared that if he told people that he had Vicodin or Percocet and that he had to take it sometimes because his pain would just get too bad that he would want to punch a wall. That was his analogy. You just want to punch the wall. But I don't tell anyone what I take. This is because if you become involved in the Ibogaine community after Howard Lotsoff, the founder, passed away, a great loss occurred. Compassion was lost. It already had been lost, but after his passing it was truly quite lost. Providers would call me and tell me about things in their lives that were going on that they felt they could not tell to anyone else because of the stigma of literally being ostracized, of being told you're not worthy to provide, you're no longer competent. We are all human, and every single provider has their deep, dark secrets. Your shadow work. I would say the only providers who may have transcended this would be the Bwiti priests. But those of us, we have not undergone that kind of intensive training, plus we are exposed to basically a very corrupt Western world. And because of all these influences around us, we end up making mistakes. My viewpoint in the presentation was to present these are some mistakes that we encounter, both with ourselves as providers and with our patients. How do we reconcile this? How do we change our mind state to, rather than "you're not competent," to simply, "Oh, you're just human. It's just the nature of the human condition." Of course there will be a problem. We are constantly in a state of attempting to attain spiritual enlightenment. I take that material from Teal Swan, who is, I would say, an expert in these subjects. I said, a true expert. We are almost never in a state of samadhi, in guru bliss, you might call it, ecstatic bliss, all the time. Even the Buddha, when he was older, complained repeatedly of his back pain. The Buddha himself complained of his back pain. He was human. The Christ, Jesus himself, simply lost it in the middle of his own temple and began throwing the tables around and yelling at everyone, screaming at them. He was also human. He also lost his temper. He also made mistakes. All of us make mistakes. One mistake that Clare Wilkins and Johnathan Dickinson made was, well, first, I attended the conference the first day. A very intriguing speaker spoke, particularly about his treatment of cocaine addiction, and I was fascinated by his approach and very intrigued by it. And I had an excellent question for him. He even commented about how good the question was, how he was so happy that I asked it. But as soon as the microphone was passed to me and I began to ask the question, Claire cut the mic. Then the person in charge of bringing the microphone around tried to take the microphone away from me. And I looked at them, confused, saying, but I. And then they began to say to me, why are you trying to keep the microphone? Why are you trying to keep the microphone? And I thought, okay, Jedi mind tricks going on here. I'll give you the microphone back, but you will not silence my voice. And you don't even know what I was going to ask, do you? Probably the most intelligent question that could have been asked. And so, finally at the very end, I just raised my hand and waved it up and down so that the speaker would notice. This girl has a question. I just made myself the most obvious thing there, sitting there in the audience. And finally, I got to ask my question about ways in which he would handle cocaine addiction, his approach, things of that nature. And he commended me for my question. He thought it was an excellent question. And I believe that was the last question of his presentation because I had to basically kick and scream, mentally, by waving my hands all over the air to get my question asked. Afterwards, I went up to Claire and I asked her, why did you do that? She said to me, because we haven't determined your pattern yet. Well, Claire, I'm going to tell you something right now. The minute you said that, I thought, well, I've already determined yours. You made it very obvious. Then, I was supposed to speak myself. I had prepared extensively for it. About what I just mentioned earlier, about how we experience problems in the community and how we can create a compassionate community. The motto, part of the motto of Gita is inclusiveness, including everyone. But see, including everyone except me, Krista Hauer. I'm not afraid to say my name. Krista Hauer. Like Walter White, say my name. Because I'm still here. So when the day came for my presentation, Johnathan came up to me and said, oh, well, we'd like to do your presentation at the clinic. And I simply saw immediately through what he was saying that it was bullshit. And I didn't give him an answer immediately. I said, let me think about this for a moment. 5 minutes later, I went up to him and I said, no, I paid $100 for this spot. It will be at this time exactly as we planned. Then guess what he said? Oh, well, I just announced lunch. Sorry. And then then Clare Wilkins and Johnathan Dickinson came right up to me and said, it's not your decision, in that tone. After that, Anwar Jiwa, who owns a clinic called Minds Alive in Durban, South Africa, he instructed his employees to lock me in a room. I realized what was going on in the middle of it, and I simply grabbed my purse and ran. I had to grab my purse and run. South Africa is incredibly corrupt. And it seems like a lot of what we would call leaders of the Ibogaine community are highly corrupt. Why stop my presentation? Why? Was it because after I returned back home, I refused to sell my soul to Lucifer like you did? Because these words are more than a simple flow. It's a spell, a curse, and wouldn't you know that I too am a witch and my magic grows? You didn't think I knew about that. Oh, now you know. I know powerful people now. I'll say it again. I know some very powerful people now. It doesn't matter that none of you will talk to me. It doesn't matter. I won't explain why it doesn't matter. But I will say that I wish you my unconditional love despite what happened to me in South Africa. My glasses were also telekinetically stolen in South Africa. These glasses, I fell asleep with them on and woke up with them off. They were nowhere to be found. A voice in my mind said, Krista, no matter where you look, you will not find them. They're in another dimension. And I thought, okay, that's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. But they were nowhere to be found. Several months later, upon returning into my house, I found these glasses on the shelf. Exact same glasses. That's telekinesis, moving objects with your mind. So I was, for people who watch me, I was being targeted in South Africa and I didn't know what was going on. Also, for many of you who will hear the rumors, I will tell you it is completely true. Outside of Malcolm's little room, I asked him for a cigarette. He didn't respond. I no longer smoke cigarettes, but at the time I was under so much stress after what had happened to me and witnessing pure abject slavery in the Ibogaine production, unsafe production methods, no respiratory protection, no eye protection. My mother is a chemical engineer who works for Chevron. She knows all about refineries and industrial chemicals. And she said, oh my God, you need to get out. You need to get out of there. Do not even go inside that lab, which was basically a garage at that time. But that's not the chemist's fault, because I still have extreme respect for that chemist. He might not be happy with how I reacted, but how I reacted was how any decent, normal person would react. Sexism, racism, slavery. I will also tell you another story. There was a friend of some people there. His name was Bilal. He was not from South Africa, I believe Zimbabwe, and was down visiting, and he began to make advances towards me. I began to fall for him. When we began to go towards the bed with still clothes on, as I went closer to him, Howard Lotsoff himself literally came into that room, screamed, he has HIV, get out now, and a force shoved me sideways away from him. Then I suddenly got up and I said, wait, what diseases do you have? Do you have HIV? He responded, what kind of question is that? I learned in South Africa that you don't talk about having HIV, which is stupid, because then you simply spread it more. In the US, we're far better about this. It's normal. We're educated to ask our partners what diseases they have so that we can protect ourselves and prevent the spread of the disease. But South Africa is not quite as advanced as this. But basically, he could not deny it. And then Howard said, before he left, Howard said, he does not just have HIV, he has full-blown AIDS. Look at him. He looks extremely, extremely sick. You need to tell his friend, your friend, who introduced you, you need to tell him, get him help now, or he is going to die. So some very interesting things happened in South Africa, particularly with these glasses. The way the glasses disappeared and reappeared in my house. Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? So I wonder, Johnathan, you have a claim to have a motto of inclusiveness, of including everyone. How do you include everyone when you reject someone who shook Howard Lotsoff's hand, who has fought for justice in the Ibogaine community, for compassion, for transparency, who has fought for those people who go to Mexico and Costa Rica, come back and say, I had so much money stolen from me and I feel worse. Can you fix it? And that's what they will tell me again and again and again. It has happened ever since 2008. I wish not to be angry in this video, but these are simply facts. You can't deny them. They occurred. I'm still a bit confused at your response, Claire, when I asked you why did you cut my mic on that very good question I asked. Oh, we haven't established your pattern yet. Well, I've established yours. You have the ability to change this. As John Lennon said, if you want to be a hero, just follow me. It greatly pains me that this evil has infiltrated the community. Let us say certain key people suddenly refused to answer any of my emails after a Luciferian presence came to me at night, demanded that I sell my soul, or that I would lose my job and be killed. I refused for several days, being attacked this way in all means possible: chemical, nanotechnology, biological warfare, psychic attacks, broken bones. The list goes on. The list just goes on. Objects flying at me out of nowhere, radiation, scalar waves, magnetics, remote mind control. I resisted the entire time, saying no. No, everyone who does this, eventually they're screaming at me that they want help getting out. You're making it sound like it's a good deal, but I can tell it's not. I can tell it's not, because I am that I am, and you cannot take me. Then, for everyone who thinks I'm that crazy bitch, Lucifer himself stopped and then looked towards what appeared to be his troops, you might call it, or followers, and he yelled, "We need time. She is too pure to take." Literally, she is too pure to take. I was shocked. How could I be too pure to take when everyone hated me? But people don't hate me anymore. Only the darkness hates me because I will fight them until my very last breath on this planet. And then return to my soul family, which I will not describe in this video. So just know, as my friend Alora Snow said, I have you by the throat. Take your shots. I'm not going to say it in that kind of way. I simply admired the way that she said it against secret agencies who were targeting her. But what I intend to say is not that. It is, I have still risen from the grave. I am a walking miracle. I died multiple times, and you are amazed that I am still alive. Part of it is engineering, but the other part goes far beyond genetics. It goes to the belief in divine creation, the great mystery, our journey towards the central sun. Although you did some very abusive things to me in South Africa, I forgive you. And I will explain the incident where I smashed a glass in front of Malcolm's door and screamed, "Give me a cigarette." Now, I tried to explain to our chemist, you know who he is, that the entire area was being targeted with electromagnetic low frequency. I am so sensitive that I can feel this on my body. It feels like waves penetrating my body from all directions if I'm in a field of energy where electromagnetic low frequency is being used. This is magnetics. This is physics. So if you do not believe me about this, simply study HARP, Gwen, and magnetics and brainwave states, and how magnetics affect brainwave states, how electromagnetics and low frequencies affect brainwave states. They cause people to fight, to feel angry, to feel depressed, to feel suicidal, to feel heavily agitated, heavily anxious. Any of the above have panic attacks. It causes havoc within the psyche. And I had to attempt to fight against this the entire time that I was in South Africa. Finally, after being abused to such an extreme extent, both by the racism and sexism of the people I encountered, almost being locked in a room for up to 18 hours, had I been locked in that room with no bathroom, might I add, and having my presentation and my $100 stolen, having my microphone stopped for literally a quite confusing reason. We haven't established our pattern yet. I need a pattern for you to allow me to speak. That's not inclusive. That's subversive. That's evil. I'll say it again. That's evil. You're trying to monopolize the Iboga tree, and Johnathan presented it himself. That's evil. That's New World Order. That is the New World Order agenda. Think about it. When Lucifer came to me, I fought him off tooth and nail. And you didn't. That says something. That says who is the pure spirit, who has the pure intentions. But I do not wish for you to be left in darkness. I wish to bring you out, but you can only save yourselves from this. I can only help with advice, but you have to reach deep within yourself. You have to void the contracts that you have made with demons, with any entities, the Greys, the Reptilians, any entities. Void those contracts, and you do that by saying, "I void any contract that I have made wittingly or unwittingly with any force attempting to control me. I void all these contracts." And if you experience backlash of some kind, that means it's working, and it means you have to keep doing it. Keep doing it. I'm going to make another video about how to program your reality. As Bashar says, you are the programmer of your reality. At first I didn't understand this, but now I do. And it's working very, very well. So, part of this video expresses a bit of my frustration. And something of, you tried to take me down. You tried to cut me off. But you couldn't. You can't. One man stood against the world at the age of 19, and he created revolution. A 28-year-old can do the same. I don't hate you, either of you, the two people who I'm talking to. I simply wish you could understand how you can understand how your actions were so completely wrong. How you could understand, for example, that your squabbles over who is taking what medication are actually irrelevant in the galactic scheme of what is going on in our galaxy. I'm not sure if you've become aware of this or not, because we've experienced many shifts on the planet to this point. So you might be aware. Johnathan, you are Pleiadian starseed, simply so you know. And unfortunately, the Pleiadians are a little easy to hack, is what I call it. Arcturians, we the Arcturians, are quite difficult to hack. I won't really describe what I'm talking about, because these people can simply look it up themselves, or you can look it up yourself. But we who lead the revolution to protect the planet Earth, that means people like me, people like Elora, other people who I know in person, we who are here to protect the planet, we don't wish to kill you. We don't wish your demise. We don't wish for you to suddenly die somehow. We wish for you to transmute, to see the error in the ways, to see that the pyramid scheme of Ibogaine is wrong. The pyramid that you've been taught is wrong. It is a lie. It is a control system. And perhaps you seek power. But why do you seek power? I had a Yael have me write down, quote, "Why do I seek power and control?" And he had ascertained that he sought power and control because he had had no power or control as a child, being sadistically programmed, raped, and such by his gray type parents. This could be similar. For some reason you desire control. You have to identify, why do I want control? Why is my ego running amok wanting control? I also want control because in past lives I have been controlled and have fought for control. So this carries over to this life where I have essentially a fear of being controlled, and I have to clear this karma, void this karma, as we say. This can be done for you as well. You simply must choose to do it. Simply just choose to do it. Release your attachment to money, and you will be amazed at the abundance of money that you suddenly receive as soon as you stop chasing after it constantly. I also do somewhat disagree, Claire, with your low dose method. In certain circumstances, yes, absolutely, the low dosing method appears to be the best. And I can absolutely see the benefits of using the low dose method. But for people with extremely severe addiction issues, they really need to, and I will explain to you why. What you said, why do you say the word hit? It's because when you take Ibogaine, it feels like being hit in the head. So providers will. I've never actually said hit like that, like other people do. I'll say give more. But the reason the other providers say the word hit someone with more is because it feels like getting hit in the head. It's a literal. It's literal. They're not referring to something violent, you know. It's simply an analogy because of the way it feels to take more. It's like being hit by a 2x4. That's why they'll say, should I hit them with more? That's what they mean. If you're confused still about why certain providers will ask you, what should I hit them with more? I've never said that ever. And though I have heard other people say it, so I know what you're talking about in that particular instance. But that's why they say it. It's not exactly a bad thing. I mean, so they could use different terminology, of course, but it feels like being hit in the bed by a 2x4. That's why they say the word hit. Otherwise, I will close this episode of Arcturian Philosophy by sending you my unconditional love and the Arcturian light language of transmutation. To Clare Wilkins, to Johnathan Dickinson, you wronged me in many ways, but I forgive every wrongdoing. I forgive myself for my own wrongdoing in the electromagnetic low frequency. Normally I would never smash a glass in front of someone's door and demand a cigarette like that and scream at the top of my lungs. But the electromagnetic low frequency was so intense that I could not control my own behavior. That is what these scalar waves do. That's what HARP does. That's what mind control does. That was why I behaved in that kind of fashion. And I never want to go back to South Africa, ever, because of the extent of ELF existing down there. I'm too sensitive to that kind of magnetic. So don't worry. You'll never see me again in Minds Alive. I'm not going near that place because they're pretty damn incompetent. I saw people leave with their treatments failing, and I knew that in my bag I had everything that the person needed to succeed, and I knew that I couldn't do a thing because I didn't work there. These people would hug me, and I would watch them leave in cars with their parents, thinking so sadly, I know exactly what to do and you won't let me help. Because you're too arrogant, or too stupid, or whatever, to actually accept advice. I'll also end, again repeating, the squabbles in the Ibogaine community over who is taking what. Now, you can actually do your analysis on me at this exact moment. You will find no opiates in my system. None. None. So that's no longer any issue of debate, period. But the squabbles over who takes what medication in the Ibogaine community. What is one of the mottos of Gita? One of the mission statements of Gita is essentially to not attempt to force an outcome on a patient, and that any outcome that is beneficial is considered a success. If someone that is a heroin addict has to get on methadone after the treatment, and they stabilize and can work and can function, that is considered a success. It seems like you've all forgotten this. But what you've also, but then you say to yourself, oh, but that person can't be a provider. But you can be a provider and secretly use drugs and never tell anyone and chain smoke and take as many psychedelics as you want. Let me remind you all of, this should still be on the Ibogaine list. 10 things providers are allowed to do. 10 things providers are allowed to do. Someone told me they thought that was the funniest thing ever and that I was completely right, but I won't mention who that was. It was just someone who was watching who happened to email me who seemed to know a little bit about it and thought it was the funniest thing because they said it's so true. What you just said is so freaking true. So check yourselves. You constantly say you have to be healed to be a healer, but you see, you're lying. You wouldn't be a healer if you stopped an innocent girl's presentation, cut her mic, had your fellow providers workers attempt to lock her in a room for up to 18 hours with no bathroom, somehow in some way have her glasses taken, whether you were involved with that or not, I do not know, then reappear in my house. Things which simply go beyond the realm of what we would call normal Newtonian physics. That's because Newtonian physics is not correct. But I believe I've talked about this subject for long enough. My main message is that I send you my unconditional love. I forgive you, and I hope you can forgive me for the way I acted in South Africa due to the intense electromagnetic low frequency causing extremely low vibrational brain states, meaning very agitated, angry emotions. Agitated, angry, depressed, all lower level emotions. I attempted to fight this constantly. It was very difficult. And so finally, at the end, that was why I simply lost it. Also, for whatever bizarre reason, Anwar said, "Oh yes, we're going in a taxi to the restaurant." I went in the taxi to the restaurant, no one was there, because it wasn't for another 2 hours. It was a trick to get me out of their place. So I called Chris Jenks and said, "What the hell?" When not what the hell, but oh my god, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I don't know where I am. I don't know where this restaurant is. I don't know what is going on. He came. As soon as he came, I knew immediately this was engineered. That he was like my babysitter. He might not have been aware that they were going to do that, but that they were making him the babysitter to, quote, keep me in line. But you cannot, quote, keep me in line. You simply can't. Because I will find a way. I already have. And there's a certain person that a lot of you don't quite like, but you depend on the person. And you can't take them down. I will be the same way. Don't believe me, just watch. Come on. Uptown, funk you up. Uptown, funk you up. Before we leave, let me tell you a little something. Uptown, funk you up. Uptown, funk you up. Say what? Uptown, funk you up. Uptown, funk you up while I drop my camera. Uptown, funk you up. Uptown, funk you up. May the higher vibration that I emanate impact you, because wherever I focus, I will not mention specifics here, or anything at all. But let us say that wherever I place my focus on large scale areas, I cause extreme activations in those areas. I can target a specific area and activate the area. Hopefully my focus will begin to give you back the power, to give you back your soul. I'm sorry about what happened to you. I know how scary it is. I know what they do. Like the song Demons. So they dug your grave and the masquerade will come calling out at the mess you've made. That's their tactic. They do it to everybody. Everybody. They try and make it look good. They try and make it look like a good deal. They try and make it say it and make it look like you're going to die if you don't go along. But that's not true. Because you have the divine creator within, and they don't. Know this. Find Almighty God within the 12 layers of DNA. This is cryon material. Part of how I survived. The 12 layers of DNA. The 12th layer is Almighty God. And in the book he says, I will still cry sometimes when I think of it, because of how I almost died so many different times and was jump-started by a magical force back to life. He says, if you need divine life force, you've just found it. I've had to draw upon divine life force to keep my body alive, so that I can complete my soul journey, my path, my mission on this planet, to protect this planet, to help this planet ascend into higher spirituality, to prevent a World War III, to prevent nuclear war. And I simply wish that you could see. The everyday little things that bother you, or who's taking what medication, they're irrelevant. They're irrelevant. The planet is what matters. This precious planet is what matters. If someone has to be on methadone so that they can help ascend the planet, then let them do that. If someone like me is powerful enough to get off their medications and manage to use all kinds of very complicated methods to manage their chronic pain, then do that. If they can't do that, why find fault with them? Why? I specifically asked Dr. Camlet at the conference. I have chronic pain, and I take medication for this. And some people feel that maybe this is inappropriate. I'm not sure if this is inappropriate. How do you feel about this? You remember what he said. He said, you shouldn't even be telling your patients about that. That is a medical issue, and that is irrelevant. He said, I was right. Right in front of all of you. I did that on purpose, because I wanted to hear him say it. I knew he would say that, and I wanted to hear him say it loud and clear, just the way Dr. Camlet does. So I am still here. I am still alive. And I will be stronger with each day. With each attempt to stop me, you will make me stronger. I know how to program my reality. I don't think you do. Maybe you think you do, but you're doing it the wrong way. Or I wouldn't be alive and I wouldn't be winning. So, I must release my frustration as I have been taught by my spiritual guides to do so. Now, I will conclude by sending my unconditional love. Once again dropping the camera, but that's alright. I will send my unconditional love with Arcturian light language codes, circuits, as well as send you the violet fire of transmutation, or you might know it as the violet flame of Saint Germain. This is a transmutative force. It transforms negativity into positivity. And so I will close. I love both of you. I forgive you. I forgive myself. And I ask that you forgive me. Regardless of if you do, know that someone loves you. Her name is Krista, the girl who was abused so much by you. She loves you. I love you. And I send you the gift of the violet fire of transmutation, of the cosmic force of energy. Let us now channel the Arcturians to convey this energy. Sorte cartena cortaino ne ikatortai satai endo cortaina atar torne kata sote na katardote sote kanartote ana atortotai se na anonai karna no sote ana katartai no senaka ana sote tote na tanana ano katai no sorna na ikatorneata o sotaina ikatorteina seto o nai sotaina kena sonai aina sona ke tornana kotai artotaina kana kornea an artote katai na sotai no sorte sotai no te ka tornea totai aina sote na kortea na so o sote katarnea na so Ana kote akotorne no naya nana ana sotete kikanotai kokonaya na kokonaya sosonea kokonaya sosonea kana ana sote kotai no kotornea ka no kena tarno naya na arsotena in torte sotai na kornea ana sotai na kote ana asote na sotai asotai no na Kornea totena sotai, anana kartai, ono nada, onnai kono te no, ono te ana kartea, arto te no te anaka, portea naka, portea no, okutaka, me te narsotai no ono se ana kotena sotea, anna sotai no korneana sotea, anokena tortea na sornea, Anna sotteata kornanea no torneana ka. Anna setta torneaka na torneaka. Ake torneana anna sottaino. Orno näeno. E se tona e ono torteata tarino ko. Kose ana tarte. Kina. Sorteo. This was one of, before I close, this is one of the most intense channels of energy that I've gotten through them. It sounded a bit like they were crying out to remember. Please remember. Please remember. Free yourselves, please. We're here for you, please. And also cast this evil away from these people. Bless these people with the light of the violet fire of transmutation. Bless them with the light of Christ. Bless them with Yeshua ben Yosef, the light of Christ, Jesus Christ. Bless them with the ascended masters, the Buddha, Krishna. For those of you who aren't really involved with this, simply hearing that channeling will probably produce an effect on you, because I feel right now heavily affected by Arcturian energy at the moment. And I could feel in my heart chakra a pulsation. And so this is the final message. They wish you their love. They wish you to return to them. They wish you to take charge, to take back your power, to reject the darkness. Reject the darkness. They were pleading with you and firm. I'm interested to see what this actually sounded like when I play it back, but that is the conclusion of my message to you. I love you unconditionally, Clare Wilkins and Johnathan Dickinson. Even Anwar Jiwa, Malcolm, Simbu Sisu. You all couldn't pronounce his name, could you? But I could. Simbu Sisu. That's his name. So now, we close Arcturian philosophy. May you all be blessed in the light of love, unconditional love, of cosmic love of Source. Blessings to you all, and I'll see you next time on Arcturian philosophy.